Lesson 10.8 is on equations for proportional relationships. So if you look at this example, Dante and his friends share a pizza with 8 slices. Each friend pays for the portion of the pizza he eats. Dante eats 3 slices. How much should Dante pay if the pizza costs $14? So what we're talking about here is a proportional relationship, which involves equivalent ratios like we've talked about. So if 8 slices of pizza cost $14, we want to find out what this relationship is, and then we can figure out what the price is. One way of doing that is writing a ratio that's equivalent to that and solving it. And there's a few other options that the book doesn't talk about that I'm going to mention here in case you're interested in doing it that way. So one option, what we can do is set up a proportion. So we could say if $14 for 8 slices, we want to find the price for 3 slices. And what the book's doing here, they're saying the variable's being divided by 3, and we can multiply by 3 on both sides, which is like 3 over 1. If you multiply straight across, 14 times 3 is 42, 8 times 1 is 8, and then 42 divided by 8 is 5.25. Over here, the 3's cancel out, which just leaves us with P, and so that means that would be $5.25 that he would need to pay. A different way of doing this that the book doesn't mention is we can find a pattern multiplying or dividing going towards the variable. So we could say if it's $14 for 8 slices, we're trying to find the price for 3 slices. So I have the same setup as the book does at this point, but then what we could do is try to find a pattern. So finding a pattern, if we go across, if you do the bigger number divided by the smaller number, so 8 divided by 3 is 2.6 repeating, and then we would do the same pattern in the numerator. So you do 14 divided by 2.6 repeating, and you'd get the same answer, $5.25. Okay. Now, just to mention, the 2.6 repeating is not the nicest pattern in the world, so there are ways that you can keep that answer in your calculator and you can use it rather than having to write like 2 point and just a bunch of 6's. Another option you could do is you could look at a pattern going the other direction. The pattern could be going up and down also, so we could do a pattern this way. Going that way, if you do 14 divided by 8 is 1.75. And again, if we're going towards the variable, if we go from 8 to 14, that's getting bigger. That would be times 1.75. So over here, you would multiply by 1.75, and that would give you the price as well. And I can show you in a minute about the calculator, how you can work that out and keep that answer in the calculator. Another option, I know this is option upon option here, but another option you could do is it's $14 for 8 slices. You could find the unit rate. So if you do 14 divided by 8, you get 1.75, which means $1.75 per slice. And then if you're doing 3 slices, $1.75 for 1 slice, then for 3 slices would be 3 times that amount. Which would also be $5.25. So there's really a lot of different ways that you could do this. Just to mention about the calculator option. So one option would be with the Desmos calculator. Desmos calculator is one that you'll be able to use on the iLearn tests. So if you were using that calculator, what you could do is, like we talked about, if you did 8 divided by 3, you get 2.6 repeating. And then you could do 14 divided by And then it's got this button here, ANS, which means it remembers your answer exactly. So if you'll notice when I put that, whatever my last answer was that I got, it puts that in that spot. And then if you'll notice the answer I got, $5.25. And you have a similar option on your calculators that you use. There's right below the 3 on your calculator, there's a negative button, and above the negative button it says ANS. The way it works on your calculator is, instead of having so many buttons, there's a second button that's in the top left corner of your calculator. So if you got the 2.6 repeating, and then you did 14 divided by, and then if you hit the second button and then this button, then it'll show ANS on your screen. It'll remember that 2.6 repeating, and you'll get 525 that way also. So similar process. It's just that on the Desmos it has a dedicated button for answer instead of it being a secondary function. And like I said, this Desmos calculator is the one you'll be using for iLearn, and so it probably would be good for us to use it, like we get practice using it for homework and then also on tests as well. Another example, if we suppose an airplane is flying at a constant speed and it travels 1,650 miles in 3 hours, at this rate, how long will it take it to travel 2,475 miles? They mention using the distance formula, distance equals rate times time, or D equals RT. You can use this formula or this equation if you want to. You don't have to necessarily. What the book did then is they found this speed as a unit rate. They found out how many miles per hour the plane was going, which was 550 miles per hour. And then they substituted that into the equation. So they said it's 550 miles. The distance is 2,475. And then they didn't really show this step, but since these were being multiplied, they divided by 550 to get those to cancel. And then that gave them 4.5 hours. Another way you could do this, once again, would be to do a proportion. And so you could say 1,650 miles in 3 hours. And this is a good idea. What we've got here showing the units next to this equals 2,475 miles in H hours. And then we can find a pattern. So if you do 2,475 divided by 1,650, then you should get 1.5. Okay, so that's 1.5, and then if we're going towards the variable, this is getting bigger, that means it's multiplying by 1.5, and so then 3 times 1.5 would be 4.5. Okay, again, just make sure when you write these problems, if you put units next to here, so you can keep track of what needs to go where in your other part of your proportion. So if we look at a couple examples here they want us to solve the equation. So this is already set up for us. We've done problems like this already. So if you're going towards the variable, if you want to go across 45 divided by 9, you don't really need a calculator, that's 5. And then the question is, what's it doing? Are we multiplying by 5 or dividing by 5? Well, going from 45 to 9 is getting smaller, we must be dividing by 5. And so then if you do 3 divided by 5, if you do that on your calculator, you're going to get 6/10, 0.6. Technically, you could just write it as a fraction. 3 divided by 5 means 3/5. Okay, so either one of those answers would be fine. One thing you can do to check answers on any of these is if you just divide these out, once you get your answers, divide both of these out, change them to decimals, and then see what you get. So like if you did 3 divided by 45, you get 0.06 and then the 6 is repeating. If I do 0.6 divided by 9, then I get the same thing. So these are equivalent fractions in a proportion, so that's how I know by checking that. That's how I know my answer is correct. So if we look at number 2, similar idea. So we can go towards the variable. If we're going from 8 to 56, if you do 56 divided by 8 is 7, and I know that's multiplying by 7, and then so 7 times 7 is 49. Same idea, if you divide both of those out, you'll get 0.875 for both of those, then you know you have the right answer. Look at number 3. They mention about this formula to write an equation and solve. Like I said, I'm not going to make you do this a certain way, so you can just do a proportion if you want, or if you want to do it a different way, that's fine. So this one, if they run 8 miles in 92 minutes, make sure you don't do MI for your abbreviation on miles and minutes. How long does it take him to run 6 miles? So if you'll notice, the miles is in the numerator. So over here, miles also needs to be in the numerator. So 6 miles needs to go in the numerator. And we're trying to find how long it's going to take. So if you want to put T for time, M for minutes, I guess, even though we have miles there already. Or you can just put an X, whatever variable you want to choose. If we go across here, if you do the bigger number divided by the smaller number, 8 divided by 6 is 1.3 repeating. If you're not a big fan of that, you can try going the other direction. So if we did 92 divided by 8 is 11.5. That's maybe a nicer pattern, so if you want to just not worry about going across, you can go up and down. Make sure you're going towards the variable. So if you go from 8 to 92, that would be multiplying by 11.5. So if you do 11.5 times 6, then that would be 69 minutes. Okay, and just to practice, you may want to practice with doing that repeating, that 1.3 repeating. The patterns are not always going to be nice. Maybe both ways they won't be nice for you, so it's always good to be able to know how to do that using that answer button on your calculator as well. Number 5 asks us to use the unit rate and an equation to solve. We'll go ahead and do that. I know I've been talking about not using the directions, but we will find the unit rate here first. So 5 dozen eggs cost $18. Remember, to find the unit rate, to find the unit price, you want to do the price divided by the other thing. So it's $18 for 5 dozen eggs. Initially, we've done this problem before, and I actually changed the 5 dozen eggs into, there's 12 in a dozen. 12 times 5 is 60. I changed that to 60 eggs. But if you'll notice, we're trying to find the price for 3 dozen eggs. So we don't really need to just find the price of 1 egg. We can find the price of 1 dozen eggs. Okay, so the unit rate would be the price for 1 dozen eggs. And we know that's dividing by 5, or if you just do 18 divided by 5, and that comes out to 3.6, which means $3.60 for 1 dozen. And then we're trying to find the price for 3 dozen eggs. So for 3 dozen eggs, then we know that would be just multiplying by 3, which would be $10.80. So it's $10.80 for 3 dozen eggs. So similarly, if we look at number 6, it's $23.85 for 9 pieces of pie. So So we can find the unit rate for one piece. Would be dividing by 9, or you just divide your two numbers. And that would be $2.65 for one piece. And then two pieces, you can just extend this if you want, I guess. We're trying to find the price for two pieces. So from 1 to 2, that'd be multiplying by 2. And so that would be $5.30. $5.30 for two pieces. If we look at number 11, Mary's neighbor pays $16.25 for every 5 bags of raked leaves. How much will Mary earn for raking 24 bags of leaves? So it's $16.25 for 5 bags. We're trying to find for 24 bags. So if you do 24 divided by 5 is 4.8. So this would be multiplying by 4.8. So then 1625 times 4.8 is 78. So that would be $78 for 24 bags of leaves. So this gives you an idea of how to work with equations for proportional relationships. Have a good day.